And so she's sitting across the table from me. And I sit down and I pull out a bloody razor blade, like a square razor blade, the kind you use in a box cutter. And I throw it on the table, and they're like, "So what's your problem?" I'm like, "Well, that's my problem." And I put it on the table. I tried to show my arm, and like I'm hurting myself. I feel like I'm at the bottom. I feel like I have nothing in my world. And my mom, because she spent her whole life running from authorities and dancing around social workers, she knew exactly what to say. So she got them to believe that I was just making it all up, and it was all just for attention, that I was just doing it just to get a rise out of people, and that I did it all the time. And so they actually sent me home with her. And as we pulled away from the social worker's office, my mom turned to me and snarled and said, "Next time you should do a better job, and I'll buy you the razor blades."
Oh, gosh.
And I just kind of shattered. Like that.
Who wouldn't?
You tell me that I'm terrible. Okay, well, then I guess I'm going to be the most terrible person possible. And I just fully adapted that. I'm just going to run right into it. You know, I'm just going to just wrap that darkness around me like a blanket and run headlong into it. Like I'm going to be the bad guy. And so I started burning everything to the ground. All of my world, all of my support systems, I just started destroying it. I started tearing down even Mike. I was doing everything I can to push everything away. And I was making myself as absolutely unappealing and disgusting as possible. Okay, so I spent the next, 5 months just being as disgusting to mean to people. And so another key fact in this is, in this time, the disaster groupie area, when I have these friends who are watching me turn into this, just slowly slide down this path, and now I'm fast going down this spiral. Instead of sitting around talking about sports teams we'd want to go see, or a movie or something like that, we'd sit around and fantasize about killing people. That was like the fiction of the group, because just as that was, we were all outcasts. So every one of us had depression. That was just kind of what we would talk about. So we would talk about, so if you were going to kill a lot of people, if you were going to kill 50 people, this is what you do. And it was like fantasy football, but for murder. And it was totally like a fiction of just sitting around talking like you're at a party. And over the time, as I slid down this spiral, that plan started to get more and more solid. And then that darkness just started to get worse and worse and worse. And I finally hit another rock bottom, where this time I'm behind Casa Bonita. I had even pushed Mike away completely. I hadn't had anything to eat in a week and a half. I was surviving by waking up in the morning and going to the grocery store next door and eating all the free samples I could steal off their trays, and then going to their bathroom and washing myself, and then finding somewhere to hide from any police officers that would be floating around, because I was young and they'd be arresting me for truancy. And I was at the very rock bottom. I was like, I have nothing. I don't know what to do. And I knew across the street from my school, I was going to North High and here in Denver at the time. Across the street from my school, there was a building that said mental health. I didn't know whether they had counselors there. I just knew it said mental health. So I went there to get help, and I walked in and I'm like, I need to talk to a counselor. And they actually had me seen somebody, but I have a hard time remembering exactly what she said, because the rest of it turns into a blur because of the last thing she said to me. But it's a combination of, because the last agent that I talked to didn't admit me, and because she was just untrained. Again, I had produced another bloody razor blade. My arms are covered in cuts. I was filthy. I smelled like feces. And the only thing I remember her telling me is, "I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do for you. I can't help you right now."
Wow.
And I walked out of that social worker's office, or that counselor's office, and I felt my brain just absolutely shatter.
Because you felt like there was no help at that time. Hold on, Aaron. We have to take our break. We're going to take a break.
Go ahead.
And we'll be right back. We'll have moments of clarity in just a moment. Stay tuned. We're going to be discussing something really serious.
You're listening to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werner. We welcome your input at 866-826-1340. Tiffany will be right back after this.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Hi, this is Tiffany Warner, your host of Moments of Clarity. Living with a mental health disorder is not easy. If you or someone you know are struggling with this, please know it's so important to seek treatment, and I'm here to help. Please visit the website at momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com to view blog posts and resources on this site to help educate and inspire you to take action, because there's no shame in seeking help for mental health. While you're there, please take a few seconds to sign up for my email list. You'll get some extremely valuable educational and entertaining content that can be sent right to your inbox each week. Plus, you'll also get instant and free access to my guide on managing your anxiety. You can also follow me on Twitter at MOC with Tiffany and at Facebook at Tiffany Warner. And once again, the website is momentsofclaritywithtiffany.com. Thank you so much for your support and for listening to your show, because change can only come when we stand together as one.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
We are back to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Warner. To join in the discussion, call 866-826-1340. Now, here's Tiffany Warner.
Hi, welcome back. And if you're just tuning in, this is Moments of Clarity. I'm Tiffany Warner. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. And today we have a phenomenal speaker that is talking about his journey through life, and it wasn't an easy one. And it's heart-wrenching to even hear, but it comes out to be a happy story, I can assure you. And before we went to break, we were talking about his struggles and everything, and he had just turned for help into a mental health facility and felt like nobody was there for him. And I want to welcome back to the show, Aaron Stark.
Thank you. So to continue where I was, so I had just walked out of that social worker's office, and I was absolutely at that bottom. That tornado that I had talked about before, living in that tornado and hurricane of pain, at the very bottom of that, something really strange happens. All that tornado kind of disappears, and it gets really quiet and still, and because you really don't have anything left to care about, and you don't have anything left to lose. And so they could have cut my arm off right then, and I wouldn't care. I'd just give them the other arm. Like, there's nothing you can do to me. And at that moment, I decided that, well, I've been invisible my whole life. No one's hearing me at all. I've been screaming out and calling out for pain. Someone's going to hear me now. I'm going to make everybody hear me. And so I decided that all those plans that I had of killing people, they were going to become solid. I already had 2 locations mapped out, either my school lunch area or the mall food court down the street. And I knew a couple gangbangers that went to the school that hung out at the ROTC building next to the park where I was kind of sleeping at. And they knew me that I wasn't a narc or anything, because I was living, like, I wasn't at school. I mean, I wasn't in school, but I was always at school. And so they knew that they had sold drugs to my family, and like they saw me sleeping in the park. I obviously wasn't going to rat on them or anything. And so, and I knew they had guns, or I had access to guns, because they had brought a couple guns to school before, and like showed them off. This was mid-90s, like, so 95, 96 was like Boys in the Hood era. And so I knew that they had access to guns. So I went up to him like, hey, can you get me a gun? Hopefully one that can shoot a lot of bullets. And he was like, yeah, shoot, dude, whatever. Give me an ounce. Like, give that for you. That's easy, dude. An ounce of weed, that back then, that's like $500-600. And for me, that was super easy to do, because my family was full of druggies. I went to my house and stole an ounce off the kid sleeping off my mom's floor. I took it to him, and he was like, yeah, you're all right. Give me 3 days. I'll have that for you. And I was like, okay. As soon as I get that gun, the instant I get it, I'm going to go walk over and start killing people.
At the school?
At the school or the food court, whatever was closest. If it was out of school, I was going to go to the food court. That was the deciding factor. And luckily, in that time, I was not alone. I hadn't been able to fully push away the most important person in my world, which was Mike. And so looking back on it now, I think I was in that phase of kind of giving things away and saying goodbye. I didn't see it then. But looking back on it, that's how I see it. I went to Mike's house, and when I went there, I don't even know what I was thinking, but when he answered the door, instead of, the rest of my world was treating me like I was a project or broken, or like I was a monster. And instead of that, Mike treated me like I was just a person. and brought me inside. He was like, dude, you're going to be okay. You're not broken. You're just hurt. You're a good kid in a terrible world, and you're going to be all right. And he sat me down and watched a movie with me and had some dinner, and he had a shower, and I sat there with him for the next couple of days, and instead of going to get the gun, I sat with my best friend and was with someone who loved me. And he stopped me from committing that atrocity just by simple acts of kindness, not by giant acts of like trying to get me into a program, but just by being there with me and treating me like a person. Because when you don't feel like you're a person, I didn't even feel like I was a human, and he came up and treated me like I was an actual person worthy of respect, and it changed my whole world.
It's amazing what act of kindness can do. In your case, it saved a ton of lives, including yourself.
Yeah, he even is the reason. So there's a good end to this story. About a year and a half later, I was out of that homicidal phase out of it. That was the last time I ever had those urges at all. But
good to know.
I was in the suicidal phase, and I was really suicidal, and I was coming up to my 19th birthday, and I had gotten a hold of a whole bunch of drugs, and I was still homeless at this time. My living situation didn't change. Like, I had gotten out of that emotional state because of Mike's kindness, and I was hanging out with Mike a lot more, but my living situation and my environment didn't change. And so I was still living in that hell. And by coming up to my 19th birthday, I ended up getting a whole bunch of drugs from my mom. I stole some cocaine. I stole a whole bunch of pills. And then I got a hold of a bunch of LSD myself. And I was living in the field behind Casa Bonita. And I was planning on taking all those and then killing myself on the night of my 19th birthday. And during the daytime, I went out and hung out with Mike. And I was trying to do my best to act like nothing happened, like nothing at all was going on. Because I knew that after I had talked with Mike, the first time it was kind of like an intervention. And I knew what that structure was. I didn't want to have anything like that this time. I just wanted to end it. So I was acting like nothing was going on. So we went to hang out with Mike. Now, Mike was a very social guy. Mike has a social circle of his own. And so he has a bunch of friends that we would go hang out with every now and then. And they were always his friends, not my friends. But they always would have to put up with me. I was like the necessary evil of hanging out with Mike. If you want to hang out with him, you have to put up with me. And so we went up, one of those friends with this girl named Amber. And we would go over to Amber's house regularly, go watch a movie, listen to music or whatever. And so Mike's like, hey, we're going to kick it at Amber's today. I'm like, okay, cool. Thinking that just like regular, we're going to go over there, watch a movie, then I'm going to go back to my field. I'm going to end my life. But we got there, and that's not what happened, because I opened up the door, and it was a surprise birthday party for me.
Aww.
And there was a whole bunch of people there waiting for me with the blueberry peach pie, and I sat there for the whole weekend with people that love me, and instead of trying to go kill myself, I was there with some of the best friends I've ever had in my life, and that's the last time I ever tried to kill myself.
That's a great story. Are you still friends with Mike today?
Yep, absolutely. He's my absolute best friend. He's uncle to my kids. I hung out with him just last week. We go see concerts together, and we go hang out all the time.
That's great.
And I'm still best friends with Amber.
Oh, good. So, like, not everyone's a destructive party. What do you call it? That they're friends that want to watch you fail.
I also have completely severed contact with my mom, my brother, my grandma, my nieces, all of that. I've stopped all contact with them because they are upset that I'm throwing the family under the bus. How could I ever talk about that? How could I ever talk about family troubles in public? And my response is, well, first off, I'll stop the instant you tell me one thing that's not the truth. And second, if you're upset about me talking about the truth of what happened 25 years ago, but you're not paying attention to the man I am today, then the problem isn't with me.
Right. And we have to get toxic people out of our lives too. Especially if they're,
completely agree.
Even if they're family, if they're toxic and holding you back and not letting you reach your potential, or not letting, in your case, not letting you reach any sort of normalcy.
I believe family is a choice.
Yeah, I mean, there's one in all our family.
But you choose. You can choose who your family is. Family is just because you're blood related doesn't necessarily mean your family. You know, I have Mike is closer family to me than any of my blood relations, any of them.